Oh my lord. Look at the chunks in there.
Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. We've got a new project on the channel today that is not a mower. We're going to be working on this Yamaha ATV that I picked up close to about a year ago. You guys can see it there in the background. Believe this to be a 1999 Bear Tracker 250. So let's check out this crusty machine and see if we can get this thing revived.
All right, and this is what we've got. This is a 1999 Bear Tracker. I believe this is the 250. It does say 230 on the jug for 230 cc's, but I believe they listed these as the 250. On the frame rail is the VIN, and the 10th digit on here is a X, and I looked that up yesterday. It is a 1999. This thing is super crusty. It's been sitting for 5 years. The guy that I got it from, it was his dad's who had passed, and basically it's just been sitting under the carport since then. He had no mechanical knowledge. He had a couple mowers that had been sitting out there too for sale, and it was really nothing of interest to me. They were just too far gone. But I'll insert the picture of the ad right now. And as you guys can see, this thing was sitting, it had lumber, all kinds of stuff on top of it. I saw it listed, and you know, a complete quad from what I could tell for 200 bucks. I jumped right on it, told the guy I'd come take a look, and went out, looked at it. I'll show you guys real quick. I did try to pull the cord at the time, and it doesn't even retract all the way back in, but the paws in there I'm sure are froze up. So I didn't have a jumper pack with me. There was no way for me to tell if this engine would rotate, and I told the guy I could give him 100 bucks for it, because worst case I would just part it out, and he said load this thing up. So that's basically where we're at with it. I'm gonna air this back tire up a little bit. I did air them up some yesterday, and the rest are holding besides this one. I'm gonna back it up a little bit over here on a little bit more flat ground. We will check the oil in it, open up the air box, see what that looks like, and I'll grab the jumper pack. We'll put power to it and see if we can get a neutral light. I've looked up a little bit on these four-wheelers. I've never had one, and everyone said they were great machines. Now this one is two-wheel drive, which honestly is fine for me. Probably use this to putt around the yard, and possibly my wife or when my girls get a little bit bigger, they can ride this. I want to try to take some more trips up to Busco Beach, which is in our area. It's a big ATV park. So it looks like it's a little bit over the line, but I'm still on a slant. But it looks pretty clean actually. Don't really smell gas in it, but it's possible that there is. I have looked inside the tank. I probably won't be able to show you guys without a flashlight, but yeah, it's too dark. But I did look yesterday. This thing is bone dry in the tank. Back brakes do not work. This is the lever over here. It's all the way pulled in, but I believe, I'm sure it's probably seized up in there. The front brakes did feel like they were working. Maybe not, but we'll get to all that. So this one is the like clutchless manual, so it'll have wet clutches in it. I'm not sure, maybe it'll tell me the shift pattern on it. I had a Bayou 220, and I think all the way down on it is neutral, so we're rolling. Yeah, so then we're in gear. All right, so we should be in neutral right there. The reverse on it, the lever on it is seized up. I'm hoping it's not internal. I'm hoping it's actually in the lever. We'll get to that as well, but that's pretty much about it. I mean, everything on it looks OEM, looks factory. Didn't see anything going on so far with the wiring. I'll hook up the jumper pack real quick and let's see if we can get any lights to come on. I will get this pulled into the shop, but I've got to move that John Deere out, and I figured we'd be able to see a little bit better out here. Can pop the air box loose. There is a filter, but it looks terrible. I don't even know if that's the factory air filter on it or not, but we will stick that back in. Yeah, I don't think that's factory. It might be, actually. It does fit in the groove well. There's a that's awesome. There's a Bears shirt in the bottom here, I'm guessing for checking oil. Alright, we are hooked up on the pack. That's off, that's run. And we've got nothing. I know we are in neutral. Let's see if we've got headlights at all. Come on. This thing's seized up. Oh yeah, we've got a one low beam. Oh yeah, we got a tail light too. Alright, so we got one tail light, so we definitely have power going to it. We've got one low beam, and then no, high works too, so it's kind of intermittent. There's high, there's low, and then there's off. Alright, let's check and see. Let me find out where the neutral safety wire is, or the wire that goes to the neutral on it. Assuming probably down by the gear shifter. But let me look that up real quick and see where that is. Alright, well I did figure out the location, and it's going to be hard for me to show you, but there is basically like a little 90-degree connector that goes right to the side of the case, and that's where the neutral safety switch is. I did go in there and wiggle it. It feels like it's connected just fine, and also found out that this wire right here is what goes, that's your reverse light. Can't really figure that out right now until we get that solved. So I did just hook up my test light, and we can go ahead. I'm assuming that one probably needs to be grounded, but we can see real quick if we're getting power up to our neutral light. Had to get you guys set up. That tripod doesn't like to work with me. Alright, so the reverse and the neutral light both have a orange or red. The neutral has like a really light blue or white, and then the reverse has a green. So I'm assuming that the red or orange on these is going to be the power. So we can go ahead and check to see if we have power. Where is my light at? So make sure we're still hooked up here. Test light is good. So yeah, so we've got power up to the neutral light. So probably the bulb is burned out. We'll see. Alright, so there's the bulb, and that definitely looks burnt. Not sure if you guys can see that. You can't even see in there anymore. It's like a chrome color, so we can't even see the filament. Let me see if we'll see if the reverse, yeah, so we'll see if we can get this bulb out. So this is the way it should have looked. That filament looks like it's all right. So let's see if we can put this bulb in to the neutral. Oh yeah, all right. We got neutral. So I'll just leave that off for now. Yep. And then we'll see if it's gonna work if we put it in gear. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and see if this thing will crank. Neutral, we are still hooked up with our jumper. Run. Yes, sir. All right, so what do you guys say? Say we put a little bit of starting fluid in there and see if it'll bust off. All right, let me grab some starting fluid. Here we go. I'm gonna open the throttle all the way. Thinks she fired. Give it a little throttle. Let's give it a little bit more. Oh, yes, sir. Sounded good too. At least I didn't hear any knocking or ticking right off the bat. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, so let's figure out what we've got to do to get this carburetor off. I guess we'll probably end up pulling this upper plastic, probably pull that tank out so we can check to see if the petcock's working on it and give us access to the carburetor, and we can start pulling that. So let me get some of this cleaned up a little bit. I'll figure out what sizes I need to take these plastics, and we'll move forward with trying to get this carb off. All right, well, I did spray down the shifter here for reverse with WD-40, and I was able to get this freed up, and it seems like it's going into reverse. So that's reverse, and now it's catching in gear. So I was kind of messing with it too to see if I had to be in neutral or what. I mean, I would assume that's the case. I'm sure any of you guys ever had one of these, you'd know what the shift pattern is, but we should have reverse now. But I'll go ahead and get the rest of this cleaned up. I did look, this is going to be a 10mm, and then someone's got another piece of hardware in there. It looks like a 7/16, but we'll go ahead and pop this cover off. And I am pumped. I can't believe that thing started right up. Now the carburetor may be a different story on it. So that was the 10 7/16. Definitely a different bolt and washer on there. So there is the upper cover. Here's part of our air breather for the air box. And then we've got vent lines right here that come up. Alright, so I gotta get something to disconnect the fuel line, and then we should be able to pull this tank and have direct access to that carburetor. Alright, and there's actually two little tabs on the front of the tank. This side there was no bolt in. This side there was, but I was able to get access just coming right down underneath the panel here. The washer's still sitting on there, so I gotta make sure not to drop it, but other than that, it was just two, well, one more 10. Should have been two. Comes with that little washer, and I've already disconnected the fuel line, so there we are. I'll go ahead and just set this back on the frame so I don't lose it. Looks like we are in there for the carburetor. All right, and it looks like, unfortunately for us, this intake boot is ripped, and it looks as though someone had already tried to re-glue this on before. I'll have to look to see how this boot is supposed to go on, but I don't know. It's kind of like a one-piece unit. It looks like maybe this was glued from the factory and it comes off. I don't know. We'll get this off and see if this is maybe something we can put back together. I doubt it, but there should have been one clamp on the front, and then we've got one clamp right here in the rear, and then we need to disconnect. It looks like the choke is all just one piece on here, so that's part of the carburetor. We'll have to get the throttle linkage. So what do we got? That thing is like petrified. So now we've just got these 4 screws. So we'll take this cover off, and then it should just be, there's usually like on most 4-wheelers, there's like a brass holder for the cable. We'll undo that, and then we can slide the throttle cable right out. Alright, so put these where we're not going to lose them. And how does this one work? So up, and then you've got to get the cable just right. There we go. And then probably unthread this. Yep. Oh no, please don't lose that brass piece. Do not lose this. We'll put that down with our screws. And then this may actually not supposed to unthread. I may have just messed that up a little bit. We should have just unthreaded right here. Yep. Alright, well, if we need to, we can put some sealant around there, but that shouldn't really be a big deal. Alright, carb is off. Take our bets now to see how bad this carburetor is inside. I don't have a JIS, but I do have a new set of screwdrivers, and this one fits in very nice, so I don't feel like stripping anything out here. So on this side there's another piece too. I don't know if there's another diaphragm under here or what, but we're going to open up everything. I've got the ultrasonic cleaner heating up, and we are going to take all this apart. Hopefully this thing's going to be savable. I did look up an OEM Mikuni carb for a Bear Tracker 250 on eBay, and guy was on there, wanted $499 for it. Now I do like OEM, but I would not be putting a $500 carb on a $100 four-wheeler. So oh my lord, look at the chunks in there. Well, I don't know if I've seen one this bad. That would have never ran. Hopefully this float is still good too. That is awful. Let me go get a couple of tools so I can start getting the float out of here, and I'll hit this with some compressed air so we can see the jets. I guess I'll probably be trying to tap this float pin out, because the other side has like a flat spot on it, so it only goes out one way. I'm gonna keep working on this. When I get all this apart, we'll take a closer look, but at least this stuff is still pliable and soft. I'm just hoping that the float isn't ruined and that there's fuel inside or it's got a leak. All right, I have spent about the last hour trying to get this carburetor as clean as I could, and I have made really good progress with it. I am gonna have to buy a rebuild kit because the needle for the needle and seat, unfortunately, I was able to get it out. It was in there. It was really stuck. It's pitted, but the rubber tip on it was destroyed, so unfortunately I can't really go much farther with it. But I did get this main jet out. I could not get the idle jet out. I ended up kind of tearing that up a little bit, but I sprayed through that. I've sprayed through this port. I did clean out where the fuel comes in, and there was like a big chunk of some stuff that came out from here, so I don't even think fuel would have flowed in there. I did leave the air mixture screw in, so on the top there is a port here, and then there is another jet here. I couldn't get this one out either, and so I sprayed through, but I have cleaned and cleaned and cleaned, and this thing looks pretty darn good compared to what we had to begin with. Now, the slide does look to be in good shape. The rubber diaphragm on here seems to be good. I pulled the choke lever out and it seems like this is all good. I will grease up the O-ring when I put that back in. What else did we find? So the main, or I guess the needle for it, for the main jet, is a little bit pitted, so I'm gonna see if the rebuild kit comes with a new one. I did take some really fine steel wool and tried to clean this up, and I think it would work, but if I can get a new one, that would be great. Here is the bowl. I got that all cleaned up, and I checked the float. I did put this under in the ultrasonic cleaner, and I didn't see any bubbles, and it doesn't seem like any fluid got in there. And then also on the side there is this little plastic cap. I'm not sure what this diaphragm is for, but this one still seems nice and pliable, and basically it just sits in and then the cap goes on top. But that's really about it. I did take the gasket out for the bowl. That still seems to be okay, and it was just a lot of cleaning and a lot of work. So I've got that basically all broke down. We are gonna have to order up another intake boot for this. I believe that this came as like a one part and was glued on here, so I'll look and see how the whole intake neck works on it. Since we're kind of at a standstill with the carburetor and some other parts, what I'd like to do is go ahead and take out the plug, and we can do a compression test on here to see how healthy this engine is, and then possibly see what's going on with these front brakes and kind of just make our way around. All right, pack's hooked up, back on, neutral light is on. Make sure we are good there, so here we go. My gauge is not holding. We'll do it one more time, but we were right at about it looked like about 145 on it, which is pretty darn good. All right, got the gauge on and holding this time. We're at 150. So we got 150 compression. That is really good. That is a healthy engine on here. let me get the jack out and let's see what we got going on with these front brakes. Now I did get these lugs loose, and I got 3 of those loose. One of them is stuck, so I'm probably gonna have to try to heat that, and hopefully we can get that nut off. But this arm is stuck in the position where the brake is applied, so I don't know if this brake is just totally worn out or what's going on with it. And I did notice that this cable right here is not actually even attached to the arm like it's supposed to be, so we're gonna have to kind of get that all figured out. These are 17mm on the lugs, so let me get these popped off and we'll see what we got underneath. Now on these, I believe that we're gonna have to take the cotter pin out and take the nut loose to be able to get the drum off from here. Those bearings feel good though, they're nice and smooth on it. All right, I did get that nut loose. I ended up breaking that cotter pin, but was able to get that off. Now looks like we've got a washer, and we'll see how hard this is going to be to get off. Not hard at all. So rusty in here, I can hardly even tell how much pad is on there. But the way these work is you just got 2 springs that keep constant tension on the pads, and then there's basically like a cam, a flat lobe right here that's on this lever, and that's what actuates it. Just spreads the pads out against the drum. But you can pull those. I'll be honest, I don't even know if there's a pad on that bottom. All right, I started getting that side loosened up, and instead of sitting here just going back and forth and playing with this thing and the brakes keep sticking, we're just gonna do it right. So I went ahead and took out the 10mm bolt that goes right through here, and once you got that loose, I just took a punch and knocked the cam out. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and take this into the shop, put this on the wire wheel, get this all cleaned up, and then I'm gonna throw some grease back on the inside there, and we should be in a lot better shape. I've got to do the same thing to the other side, and other than that, we should be good. Now the way these are set up, I started actually trying to scratch a mark into the end of the cam to match up on the splines here, but I realized that there's actually a dot on here, and there is a dot on here as well, and also there is one on the indicator to basically tell you how worn the brakes are. So kind of cool. I didn't know they already had that on there. But let me go get all this cleaned up. I'll get this greased, and we should be moving a lot more free, and then we'll end up doing the same thing on the other side. All right, and this is what I've got. I went ahead and hit that with that wire wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and put some marine grease on here. I'm not gonna go too crazy, but make sure that it should be able to spin nice and free for us. Now it's got this washer on the outside. Get that in there, and that's moving nice and free, so that should not be binding up for us. I'll rotate for this a minute, and then I'll put just a little dab more grease on it, and then I'll go ahead and just put the indicator back on, line that up, and then line this up and put our 10mm bolt back through. I'm gonna do the other side, and I'll show you guys once we're done, make sure everything's moving like it's supposed to. All right, well, I've got both sides working nice and freely now. They spring back just like they should, and I'll show you guys. The bearings are nice, but unfortunately they don't hold very well. There's not much pad left, and I don't want to make adjustments right now because I would like to get a whole new set of pads all the way around ordered. I will work on that rear because it just has a single drum on this side and it's just like the fronts. So I'll just repeat the process. I'm sure the pads on that one are toast as well. But we have figured out quite a bit on this machine. We've got, you know, figured out that really we just had a bad bulb for the neutral light. So that was pretty easy. Got to get a new bulb for that. Got to order the carb rebuild kit for it with the intake. We need a new air filter for it. We're gonna have to service up the oil on it. It really needs a pressure wash at this point. I would like to get the plastics looking a lot nicer in the end if everything works out. And I will probably take a Scotch-Brite and hit a lot of this and get it cleaned up the best I can. And then we'll see about maybe wet sanding and some SC1 and stuff like that on it. But overall, I think we're in fair shape. I really think this is going to be a good four-wheeler. We got the reverse, seems like we got that unlocked. Pull start, that's probably going to be a nightmare with those bolts, those JIS Phillips heads on it, because they all look like they're stripped out. But yeah, we will definitely have plenty more work to do on this machine, but I've got a lot of parts to order so we can keep moving forward. So I greatly appreciate you guys checking out the channel as always, and we're going to have more mower content, but also some more four-wheeler content and some other fun stuff. So I really appreciate you guys stopping by. On that note, let freedom ring, let the small engine sing. I'll see you all in the next one.